The first thing I want to talk about is the audience. These are big picture fundamental things. I'm hearing a lot of people saying, how do we get more volunteers or ministers? How do we get more people excited or interested about it? It really hinges, I think, on these fundamentals. Because without the fundamentals, things can get lost down the cracks. We think, how do we get more people to come to this? But how do people communicate? You have to roll it back a little bit to try to make sure you're hitting it in the right way. So the first kind of concept is the audience, right? And this is a very basic interpersonal communication style linear model, this is called. There are a lot of different models, but this is the one that you're probably used to, okay? Someone is on the radio making an announcement. They're the sender. It goes to the receiver. It's somebody's ear, right? So traditionally, you'd have an arrow going one way. But I put an arrow going back the other way because we can have something called a feedback loop, okay? And when we're doing ministry in context of the church, I believe that that's one of the most important things, right? So if we're trying to reach mothers of preschoolers, for example, I'll use you guys as an example. Maybe you think you're reaching a lot of people. So once you talk to some moms of preschoolers, hey, how did you hear about us? Oh, we saw that thing you posted in the bulletin. We saw this and that. It was so great, and we felt really excited about it. So now you've created a loop. So the audience kind of goes in a loop like that. If somebody tells me something, I'm going to receive it a certain way. If somebody tells me my hair looks like it's thinning, that may be true, right? They may be trying to help me out and telling me to get some Rogaine. But the reality is I'm going to receive it differently than somebody else. So these are things that get into this whole communication model. And so what I just explained is not really the linear. It's going in all different directions. An example is advertisements. You're seeing a billboard up on the side of the road. You would think that the company is the sender and the receiver are the people driving, but one person is going to take it completely different than another person. Everyone is going to be interpreting it differently. So that's something to keep in mind with audience. It's very important to try to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. These are some examples of some things I just made, just that are things that you might hear within a ministry. A lot of people, you say, come to our great event, come to our Bible study, right? I'll use the example of a Bible study. Come to our Bible study, it's really important. These are some of the things that can cloud the communication from you to the person you're trying to get to come, right? Maybe these are cultural, maybe these are family, maybe this is attitudes that somebody had about Bible studies or things like that. All of these kind of things get in the way, for better or for worse, when we're trying to send a communication. So I put here, I'm getting lost here. The receiver is getting lost in the whole mix. And oftentimes we think that our message as a sender, as someone that's putting out a communication, we think that we're getting muffled out by the world around us. I think it's the opposite sometimes. People aren't able to listen to things, and they're able to hear things, but they're not able to listen, if that makes sense. It can come in one ear and one other, but you can't really take it in because there's so many messages coming all around. So that's kind of the idea with this. These are some principles that I would say are the most important for audience. Number one, know your audience. You have to listen, okay? These are all things that I've learned the hard way. A lot of my colleagues in professional communication have learned the hard way. I'll give you an example for knowing your audience. I'll try to give examples on these two to help make it a little bit more concrete. But I know of a youth ministry organization that was trying to get kids to come to their, let's say, their Bible study. And they were saying, well, if you don't come, you're going to go to hell. And we laugh and say, oh, who would ever do that? Plenty of people do that because they think they're passing on the right message, right? They're helping somebody get to heaven because they're warning them, things like this. And they obviously haven't talked to a lot of teenagers. If you tell a teenager, anybody with teenagers, you better go to that Bible study, you're going to go to hell. The teenager's going to look at you and say, let's see. You know what I mean? It's a whole different kind of environment. If you were to go to a teenager and say, hey, come to a Bible study, all your friends are going to be there. Now, you've got their attention. You know their audience. You know that community is important to them. You know their friends are important to them, especially at a young age, 15, 16 years old. They want to fit in. So that's kind of the idea of knowing your audience. If you're working with people, that you're trying to get to come to a ministry, where do they hang out? What do they do? What kind of things interest them? And what can you learn from that as you're crafting the message? I like to think about it, the message is almost like a piece of clay, okay? You're crafting it. You're setting it aside, you go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, you look at it again. How do we mold this into the right thing and get it out there? The next one is test your message. So maybe you have an idea that you think is a good way to talk to teens. Maybe I think now I'm going to tell the teens that all their friends from school are going to be there. That's my message. Come to the Bible study, all your friends are going to be here. Maybe a lot of teens are excited by that, but maybe some teens say, well, I'm an outcast at school. I don't want to be around those people. So this is where testing comes into play. A lot of this is a more practical example. You make a bulletin flyer, and people come to your event. Maybe you had a bulletin flyer, maybe you had something in the connection, and maybe you had an announcement at the pulpit. People come to your event, ask them, how did you hear about us? Where did you hear about it? And then look at what you did from that feedback. Maybe mothers of preschoolers respond very well to the screen, but they never look in a bulletin. Because who wants to take a bulletin when I have hundreds of other papers in my car, So things like that are important. And then it's also nice to look at things and say, well, how can I change my language? If you're putting out a communication and nobody's coming, it's important to say, well, am I using the right language? Are you going to hell, or are you coming to grow with friends and things like that? The third one is tough, flexible to feedback. If you have, it's important to ask people that are not necessarily your friends and family if you're trying to do communication stuff, because your friends and family will say, well, you've done so great, good work. But, someone that said, maybe for an example of of a children's ministry, a parent decides not to come. Maybe they saw the message and they decided not to come. Well, why didn't you come? Did it not look appealing to you? Were you busy? Things like that. That's the kind of feedback you have to be open to. And maybe someone's going to tell you, well, it just looked weird. It didn't look very exciting. There was a lot of text on the page, and it looked like you were going to be talking to me the whole time. So that's big. And the last one is reviewing results. I do a lot of electronic media where you have direct access to numbers, right? So when we send out the community connection at the parish, it goes to about 4,300 people, and I see that about 2,100 of those people open the email at least once. So not just pass over it, but actually open it. Then I can see how many people clicked on something. How many people clicked on the flyer for human trafficking? How many people clicked on the MOPS thing? I can see direct numbers on that. So there's a lot of advantages to using electronic media to do things like that. And we'll another session we'll be using some of the more specifics of that kind of things, how we can do those. But I just want to give the overview first to get an idea. The next one is channels. These are a lot of the different things. There are lots of different things, and quite honestly, it can be very overwhelming. Especially when we're getting our ministry started, we're trying to get out there. We want people to come. Habitat for Humanity is a good example, right? They've got a fixed day where they're going to be building. If they don't have the people there, they're going to be in trouble. So there's a certain sense of urgency, right? And so it's very tempting to look at that and say, oh my gosh, we have to do 3 bulletins, and we have to do 2 pulpit announcements, and we have to do this and that, and just bombard people. I think a lot of times people don't come because they heard so many times, and it sounded of such urgency rather than something that was exciting. What? Well, but this is so I have on here like the computer. I have a computer on here. Okay, the website. We have a parish website that we use. It gets a lot of traffic. We get about 10,000 people a week on the website, which is, where do they come from? I don't know. What are they looking for? Mass times in the bulletin. We put all sorts of fancy articles and videos and pages and stuff. They want the mass times in the bulletin. So that's a challenge to us, right? If people are just going for pure information and not inspiration on a website, maybe the model of the bullhorn isn't working so much because they're used to it. We'll just get the bulletin and we'll go home, And so that's something that I've kind of looked at. I have a poster on here, posters and flyers, really great way, putting them in the bulletin to put something in there. LinkedIn, great. You were mentioning in the back for professional resources. So if your audience is a professional, when I was working with donor relations, when we were trying to get a bunch of donors for an organization, we did a lot of outreach on LinkedIn because that's where they were. They weren't on Twitter, they weren't on Instagram, they were on Facebook, but they were kind of connecting with their kids in a college or something. But LinkedIn was where they were handling their professional side of things. And then Facebook, the largest social media network. A lot of people, you may have read things that Facebook is on the decline and nobody wants to use Facebook anymore. It's all wrong, I'll tell you right now. I think there's it's either between 750 million or 1 billion people on Facebook. And the average adult in the United States goes on Facebook every day. 70% of those people go on every day that have a Facebook account. 70%. So there's a lot of flexibility on there. There's also a lot of advertisement revenue. Facebook makes a lot of money advertising. That's that. So know where your audience is. Okay, this is something to think about. If your audience is more of a digital generation, think about where you're going to get them. If your audience is more of a bulletin reading generation, put something in the bulletin. If your audience is somebody that's going to be at church every single Sunday, they're very regular church attenders, a pulpit announcement. These are ways of understanding, well, where is your audience? And it could also be, where is the audience that you want to get the attention of? That's the other side of it. If you're trying to get attention of teens, talking to Scott Bagshaw or Becky or one of the youth ministers and saying, how can we do some outreach to the teens? This is kind of just knowing where your audience is very important, and it really helps keep things rolling along. The next thing is observing customs. This is something that is everyone familiar with the different generations? Does everyone know what a millennial is in here? Can anybody tell me what a millennial is? The age range of millennial, does anybody know? It is, I think it is 16 to 35. I think, yeah, 2000, age 2000, or born in the year 2000, all the way till 35. So I think it's 80. What is that? 81, yeah. And it's hard to think about it sometimes, because someone that's 16 is so different than somebody that's 31 or 30. There's such a big divide in that, but they're still considered millennials. There is such a thing called a digital native. All right, those are people that are born after 1993, so they've never not had the internet before. A digital native has never not been able to just pull out their phone and Google something, right? They've always been able, if they have a question about family, parenting, about anything, anything they might want to do, they could just pull out a phone, and chances are they may not talk to you. They're going to just go to the phone, right? So I was listening to a presentation. I'm not going to sidetrack, I promise. I was listening to a presentation the other day, and they were talking about how millennials, especially, have so much information thrown at them. They're inundated with information. Things on TV, things that they can find, Wikipedia, right? You can look up anything. It may not be the most accurate, but you can look up anything. But what they're looking for is interpretation, right? They have so much information, but they want interpretation. And so you look at someone, this is an example for me, so many millennials were behind Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders was this huge millennial tidal wave. And these young people were looking to Bernie Sanders because they wanted him to interpret the signs of the time, right? So Bernie's up there talking about the stats. There's this many people have no jobs, this much in debt, this many dollars have come from corporate stocks and things like that. And everyone looks at him and says, you're an older guy, you have experience, you've done this, we trust you, help us interpret this and help us move forward. So millennials, they don't want a numbers person. They want someone that they can attach to and relate to. And Bernie Sanders was that person. So observing customs, I got onto that. Observing customs is very important because a custom helps you understand what other people do in that sphere. And I was saying millennials because millennials are very keen to this, okay? So you may have an organization that just got a Facebook page, right? And they think, we got to be posting every 5 minutes. We're going to post a flyer. We're going to post a coupon. We're going to post this and that. And the millennials will look at that and say, you are not like us. Get away. This is toxic. And it's hard to believe that, and it's a little sad sometimes. But that's the reality, is you have to, if you're going to go to another country, you're not going to be waving your hands in the air like this when you're walking down the street. You're going to see, okay, what are they doing? How do we lay low a little bit and kind of integrate into the culture? And I've worked with a lot of religious organizations, private organizations, and they have the reasoning, they say, well, because we're Catholic, it doesn't matter, right? Because we're religious, it doesn't matter. This is the gospel. This is the real deal. Whatever we say matters. We get up and preach from the highest, but that's not what happens, because millennials, and I bet everyone in this room, if they saw stuff like that, they would say, well, this doesn't really fit in. I don't really subscribe to this so much. So I would also say pick only a few. It's important to only pick a few social media accounts. So when I was talking about Habitat for Humanity, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We have to get all these people. We have to get everybody involved. Picking a few social media and then getting good at those are much better than trying to do the shotgun effect and do everything. If your audience is on Facebook, if your audience is a bulletin reader, if your audience is someone that listens to the pulpit or listens to podcasts, that's another thing. Get good at it. Practice it, read it, and I can email all sorts of fun resources. I mean, there's literally 10 websites dedicated to teaching every social media platform out there. If you have the time to read it and someone can help you interpret some of the stuff, you can really get your bearings down. So learn. You never stop learning on these kind of things. So this is we're going to go over two methods. These are very, very important. I would say that when you're crafting a communications, when you're trying to figure out how you're going to communicate with an audience, show, don't tell is huge. All right. This is an example of a campaign that we did when we were doing the Bags of Compassion around Christmas time. We decided that a good way to get all of the data and the emotion of homelessness, people experiencing homelessness, was to go out and take pictures of people and print them out real big and put them in the church. I don't know, maybe some of you saw those. Those were people, on a Saturday, I went driving around and took people's pictures, and this was one of the guys that we met. What kind of message does it say when you connect somebody like this with something you're trying to get across? Especially with social justice things. Telling the story of somebody. This is Joe. Joe is 43 years old. He is an immigrant from another country. He's been here for 10 years. He's been working every day, but he still can't afford a house. Right? As someone, if you want to get someone involved with that and they hear that, they're going to be much more inclined to saying, well, that's very interesting. How do we get involved? We want to go meet Joe. But if you give somebody a bunch of stats and a bunch of statistics and a bunch of information, it gets very difficult for people to make that connection, especially in the age where if I want to look up stats on homelessness, if I really wanted to, I could do it in 10 seconds. I could probably talk to my phone and tell it to find me the number. That's how the distance. 20 years ago, you would have to go to the library, you'd have to look at an almanac, you'd have to look at census data, you'd have to go and talk to people in city government. Now, one click. So what people have forgotten with all of the information is the human aspect behind it, right? So an example, I'm thinking of the job search workshop, maybe an example of somebody that received a job as a benefit from the workshop, telling their story. If we want to get more people to come and present at a workshop like that, to be able to tell about their expertise in maybe social media, right? Like if I was going to go and talk about social media, if you wanted to get my attention, you could tell positive stories of people that have received jobs. This is Joe. He got a job and it's been the best thing, all because someone decided to come for an hour and talk to them about their skill. Sure. And we'll have a collective brainstorm a little bit towards the end. But very good. Does that make sense though? Like the more you get into the idea of showing people your message, the better you have a chance of getting to them. This is a really interesting. This concept kind of changed my life a little bit. This is the why versus the what. Okay. This is called the Golden Circle. Has anyone ever seen this before? The Simon Sinek Golden Circle. All right, we got somebody over here. So it's not me. Simon Sinek. He's a guy. He's a TED speaker. He is very, very good. If you want to read something, he has a book called "It Starts with Why." If you have ever It's one of my favorite books. It will help you understand things very well. But what he talks about is most people, you see how the arrow is starting at Y and going outwards? He suggests that most people start with what and then move to Y, right? So for the example of, I'll give an example, but does that make sense? So if you're talking about a computer company, you would talk about, well, the computer is very fast. It has a good screen. It's got a really long-lasting battery. It's got a keyboard. You know, it's got all these features, and most people never make that visceral connection with the product, right? They never get to the why. They say, well, what? I need something to do my homework. I need something to use computer. How do I do it? Well, I go to Best Buy and buy it. And that's the end, right? So the relationship I have with my computer is it's a thing I needed and it's a thing I bought. That's how it worked. You never get to the why. But Simon Sinek gives an example of Apple is a company that starts from the why and moves to the what. So you had someone like Steve Jobs that would get up there and he would tell, bless you, he would tell stories about people that use the computer. You know, an astronaut designed the spacecraft on a Macintosh computer. Or you see these advertisements on TV now shot with an iPhone. They have these family videos and stuff, and you see billboards around, and it's all this it's this great stuff, and you look at it and say, I could do that too. You know, it's not a technically perfect, superior picture with perfect lighting and, you know, all of to show off the quality of the camera on the phone. It's to create an emotional response to say, you could do that. This is you. This could be you. And so Apple starts with the why. So they would start with the why. You can challenge the status quo of computers. You can be a part of something bigger with an Apple. How? Well, you start to learn how to use it and you get really good. And the what? Well, it just so happens to be a computer. You know what I mean? Like it moves out. It's almost like buying into a movement, you know, and you talk to people that have Macs and you say, well, would you buy a PC? Never. They say, well, never. It just works. It just does what I need it to do. And and the reality is Macs are twice as expensive as PCs, quality to quality, as far as the speed and things like that. But it doesn't have the charisma of a Mac, you know. So that's the idea of the why. And I'll give a pretty fun example here. So I was hired. I was hired to promote an app a number of years ago. There was a company, and they had this Bible app. Okay, and it was you actually may have it on your phone. It's a Catholic company, and they were so excited they had invested $1 million in developing an app that was the Bible, and you could highlight it, you could make notes, and it was this great Catholic Bible app. And I sat down with the guys that designed it, and I sat down with the guys that were the marketing experts, and they said, "How do we get this thing out there?" And they said, "It's just so good. It's an app. It's on your phone. It's free. It's so wonderful," and this and that, right? So they were starting with the what. It's this awesome app. It's so great. It's this thing on your phone. Well, how do you get it? You go to the store on your phone and download it. Great, but nobody downloaded it. They spent so much money, and I was helping them make their. I came in after they wasted a lot of money, but they were trying to get this thing out there, and nobody was downloading it. People were like, "It's free, okay, well, I don't really need it," you know? So what I used the principle of the golden circle with them, and we start with the why. Why would somebody want a Bible app, right? Why would somebody want a Bible? What is the value of the Bible? Why do we as Catholics believe in the Scriptures? Why do we study the Word of God? Why do we listen to the Gospels proclaimed every single Sunday? Why is that? Why is that so important? You know? And so if you start with the why, we created an ad campaign based on the Bible, how awesome the Bible is, how awesome Scripture is in your life. And people would have spent $10 on that app. They were downloading it so fast. So instead of saying, look at this free, awesome app, it's so great, we said, look at how great the Bible is. And oh yeah, there's an app. So you start with that beginning thing, and then you move out to making the connection, right? So back to my example with the high school student, by saying, come to this Bible study or you're going to go to hell, right? That's the what. It's a two-way street. Do it or don't do it. Show up or don't show up. But if you start with the why and say, there's a lot of your friends are going to be here. There's a lot of opportunities to meet other people your own age that have questions about their faith. Whoa, I have questions about my faith. That doesn't sound like anything preachy. That sounds like a space to be able to talk about religion and to be able to look at my faith. So that is how you can get to the why. Does that sort of make sense? Right? And I actually don't know if he came up with the golden circle himself. I think it's
I don't think so, but that is a phenomenal TED Talk. The Apple computer.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Because he goes into talking about the iPod, and he said that so many people, HP came out with an MP3 player, that you could listen to music on, and people looked at it and said, why would I ever buy a music device from a computer company? But Apple, when they released theirs, they couldn't keep them on the shelves because they started with the why instead of just the what. This is the hardware, this is what it does.
Yeah, you don't think of them as a computer.
No. Philanthropy. Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
Great talk.
Yeah. So that's kind of, and so this can apply. I have seen this work many, many times. I saw this work specifically a little bit as we were preparing for the Bags of Compassion. We were putting inserts in the bulletin that had a lot of just stories and a lot of reflection in them. Rather than just saying, here's this thing, come this night, come help us build a bag and take a bag and give it to someone experiencing homelessness. We kind of, Mary and I and Father worked on some articles in there to try to get people inspired to make them want to do something about it. So it hit the why. Well, why should I care about another person that's experiencing homelessness? Well, the gospel says so. Everybody's created with human dignity. There's all of these reasons that you can get to first before you say, come on November 5th to learn more, So that's how we look at the why in things. So I'm going to show you a tool. Has anyone ever heard of Canva? I think the mop squad over here has heard of Canva. The mop squad. Canva is a really special thing. Basically, what it is, a lot of times, has anyone ever used Publisher before? Has anyone ever used Microsoft Publisher or Photoshop or things like that? That's kind of a pretty popular thing. Canva, I have no internet. Canva is a really great tool. One moment. We'll get on real fast. I might. I hope so. If it doesn't go in 10 seconds, I'll record it tomorrow and send it to you. I think we're in. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so Canva is a free tool. How many people have a Gmail account? Everybody have a Gmail account? You're in. All right. So you may have seen some of these these are all the designs in the past few months that we've been working on. All of these things, this one may be familiar here with the ASU flyer, all of these things here were not made in some $2,000 program. They weren't made, using stuff like that. They were used, I guess, techniques of that. But basically, Canva is a creation tool for making just about anything and everything either printed or digital media. Okay. Canva is a very, very powerful tool. It's amazing that they don't charge money for this, honestly. I mean, it really does a great job. And you can have a lot of fun making things. So as you see here, I actually made this slide that I was just doing in Canva. So everything I do is in Canva now because it's very convenient. And see, these are all the different slides like this. And basically everything is movable in Canva like that. So I'll give you an example. We'll start with something basic. The first thing you need to know is with Canva, when you're getting in, all you have to do is, let me log out for you real fast and show you. Very simple. So you need to sign into your Gmail account on another tab. Open up a tab, sign into your Gmail. And then when I go and click on login right here, and I go to log in with Google, if you have a Google account, you automatically have a Canva account. You don't have to make another account. You don't have to sign up for another email or get a bunch of emails and things. If you click log in with Google, just like this, so you would just go into another tab over here and type, go to google.com and, log into your email. And that will, usually once or twice we'll do it on your browser. And then up here, if you click this on this top panel up here, there's a lot of cool stuff. These are all of the template sizes that Canva can give you automatically for free to be able to do things. For example, a US letter, 8.5, and you can see down below it says 8.5 by 11 inches. a presentation. So this is a widescreen presentation or a non-widescreen. You can make letterhead. You could make a magazine. You could do an album cover, an ebook cover, a real estate flyer, a poster, an 18 by 24 inch poster, things like that. So Canva gives you these are some places to start, right? If you wanted to do your own dimensions, which we'll try right now, you could just type in something like, so let's just type in 8.5 by 11. We're going to make a flyer for the bulletin. Okay, this is going to go in the middle. Whoops. This is going to go in the middle of the bulletin. So 8.5 by 11, just like this. And you hit design. Another cool thing about Canva is it always saves everything that you're doing. You don't have to click save. You can always go back. It's nice. There's unlimited storage. You know you're not going to store too many, but who knows? Anything is possible. The cool thing is here, it's a document layout. So the first thing I would do is call it, you can title it up here. And again, I'll record this and you can watch this later if you want. Let's just call it a flyer. So some of the features up here that you can do, we're going to just put in a picture first. Let's find a picture here. Let's use a picture like, I don't know, here. This is a good one. So you can upload things. Right on the side here are the main different controls. So layouts, elements, text, and uploads. If I click on uploads and I want to pull a picture, let's say we're going to make a flyer. So I've uploaded these all in the past. That's why you see them here. They stay there forever. Upload them once and they stay there forever. And you click on it and it comes in just like this. So now you have a lot of flexibility on what you can do. So let's say I want to resize this picture. You know, you can go like this. And of course you want to use the highest quality pictures that you can find for this kind of things. But let's say we want to make a flyer. We'll put this down here. Something like that, okay. It's that simple. You can just move things around within your frame. We're going to go over to elements. We'll pick a shape. So now we have some shapes. Let's pick a square here. And let's position it. And if it falls off the side there, you see how it's kind of falling off the side? It's fine. It won't print. It automatically crops it. But you'll see here that there's some controls. So you could copy it. You could send it backwards, because it works like layers. So you have the bottom thing, the top thing goes up and down. And you could change the color. So let's say we want to make this. I just clicked on the color there. You can click on, we're going to make this something very fun, like this, right? So again, you can move it. Let's say you want to have some white space. This really comes down to, how much you want to play with it, how much you want to try it out, like that. And then let's say you want to get some text. So you come and click on the text here. You'll notice anything that says free next to it is completely free. You can use it, you can modify it, it's free. Some of the things are not free. I'm not finding anything that's not free on here. But the way Canva makes their money is they sell some of these little designed elements for $1 a piece. So they assume people are not paying attention to the free sign. They spend an hour making their beautiful poster. They're ready to click download, and it says enter your payment for $1. And you're like, well, I spent all that time, I got to do it. This is how they work. So you can go here and you can add your own text like this. This is going to be the come to mass. Yes? Mm-hmm. So I think it's like 72 hours you can adjust it. So you can go back and adjust it again and things like that. I believe I've actually never bought anything on here before, but I know some people have. So we're going to make a... And so I clicked here on the fonts. So I double-clicked on the text. Double-click on the text. You can pick all sorts of things. You can pick the size. So let's say we want to make this a really big, exciting flyer. This is to the young people, I think. And the cool thing is it has built-in guides. So you see how I'm moving it across and the line comes like this when it hits the middle? It's showing you right where the middle is, which is ever so handy when you're trying to lay things out. But you can do, this is really, it comes down to it. You can do all sorts of great things. Let's do something like this. This is a nice font that I like to use. And then if I click this little downward arrow, I can bold it, uppercase. I can make it italic like this, which is nice. and move it like this. So this is just some of the basics that you can do in Canva. And you think maybe you think, oh, this is going to require a lot of artistic skill to make something look nice. Well, a lot of these layouts down here are pre-made. So if I want to click on one like this, it's going to already have selected some really cool fonts for me. And then I can just go in and change it like this. So you can, change it like this almost, and it's so orange too. But, you get the idea of kind of the ability to do things. If you don't like it, you can delete it like this. You can add another one. This is a really nice one. And if anything, these are just nice because they give you inspiration, right? Maybe you want to make it smaller. Grab over here. It'll automatically resize everything for you like this and wait for that line to come down the middle, just like that. It's pretty cool. So that's the basics. Does that all make sense a little bit? It's like a blank. You have a kind of a blank canvas that you can move things around. That's what we're getting. That's next on the docket. So let's say you want to make a multi-page, something multi-page, for example. You can click Add New Page right here, and it'll make another page in the sequence. Let's say you want to duplicate this one, right? You can do this. You can start moving along as you go, like this, very easily. You can make different versions and things like this very, very simply. Now, when you get up to the top up here, there's a couple things. If you click on Download, right up on the top, you've got some options. So you could download it as a JPEG, which is an image file. So it'll make an 8.5-inch by 11-inch image, right? So if you were, I don't know what you would want, a big picture that big. A PNG file, it kind of explains here, is a high-quality image file. A PDF, if you want to email it, you can click right there, and it'll be a little bit smaller. I always recommend if you're sending anything in to the parish to have printed, always go PDF for print, and you click that. And then you also have some options down here that you can say, I only want page 1. It'll automatically do all the pages unless you tell it, I just want page 1. So let's tell it, I want page 1, and I want to do a PDF for print. Like that. And this is all magically completely free. And it just does it. And then it asks me, okay, where do I want to save it? I want to save it on my desktop, like that. And let's say we want to open it up. And there it is, in a perfectly created PDF file. Making PDF things have never been easier than this. I mean, this is very, very easy. And there it is. And this, you could send this to a printer. You could send this here. You can literally do anything. If you're working, I don't know if you guys are working with professional printers, maybe for some of the things that you're getting printed, you're not Kinko's, I would say maybe something a little bit bigger. It even has the ability now to download with crop marks and bleeds, which are what you need if you're sending it to a big printer, so they know what to do. So there's a lot of really, really great features. Yes.
Going back to what you had on file, can you share that? Let's say that flyer of mine. Can you send that to me in this so I can adjust it?
You can. So this is a new feature now, is you can share it. So this is a great example if you have a couple of people working in your ministry, right? Maybe you're the leader and you have a couple people that want to make flyers, or someone who wants to play with it, or you want to do things like that, or you want to just have a little oversight over what other people are making. You can click share right here, and then you can type in their email address, and then you can select make it editable, just like that. And then they can edit it. You can also copy and paste a little URL here that it gives you, like this, and you can share it with somebody just like that through a URL, which is great. And then each person would need to have their own account, but again, if you have a Gmail, it's completely free. So this is great. You can actually, send, like Dan Minton and I in the office, we work on things together. He'll make something, he'll send it to me, I can take a look at it, adjust things, send it back to him, and we can move back and forth like that, all in Canva. To get to your shared things, you go up here and click on Canva, back to the home screen, and you click Shared with You. You can see some of the things. It's been reset. But you literally have unlimited designs in here. I'm trying to think of something that is This was the cover for the Easter Bulletin, was in Canva, which traditionally I would use a lot of $2,000 programs to do this kind of stuff. But because Illustrator, Photoshop, things like that, but because it has so much power, even for professional designers, it's really great. So it's really fun. And you have you can really, play with it. A couple more things I'll show you real fast. Down here, if you click Learn to Design, Canva is so smart, they give you an entire free design school. Seriously. Because they want you to buy those dollar things. I'm telling you, this is their whole scheme. But here, you can take challenges. The Beginner's Challenge, it'll show you about working with fonts, how to work with color, images. This is just fun stuff that, if you got some free time, which everybody has tons, I'm sure, you can just go on Canva and play with this thing. You can also click here and where it says Get Design Inspiration. Sometimes you just need to see something else to give you an idea. Okay, well, what should we do? If you click here, these are all of the things that are being made on Canva in real time. So these are all the kind of, look at these cool things. I mean, these are all awesome things, and some of these are voted up, and, a lot of people, this guy's making a barbecue Father's Day celebration. Look at this. How cool is that? Somebody made that on Canva by just taking a couple of graphics, putting them together, picking a font, So there really is a lot of, it's really great because it's completely free. They're never going to charge you if you're doing your own stuff. And then again, back here when you go to Create Design, again, you really have all of these options. I will show you, they have trifold brochures now, which if you're doing brochures for ministries, this is kind of a really neat thing. But it will let you make your own trifold just like this. And so it even has some layouts for free, right? So even more so. So like this one says free. Let's click on it and click this. And now we have a whole free layout. We could just change the picture in the back, put our font on there, and then go for it. I mean, and again, everything is movable. You can put the name of your ministry there, change the color of this, So there really is a lot of flexibility. Start simple, play with it, but you'll see that all of the things that go on Facebook that we put out, flyer or graphics and things like that we make on here. I know organizations that have $10 million budgets that use Canva nonstop just because it's convenient. It's on every computer. It's not installed on some computers and other computers. So that's kind of the benefits of Canva. Let me say, we can take a moment now. I want to see if anybody has any specific questions on stuff we covered. I'm sorry, this is kind of a whirlwind. There's a lot of stuff. Any questions, specifics, a scenario maybe or two? Yes?
I run Facebook. And when I want to get it, I want to post something and I want to broadcast it around, I ask you, and you repost it or somebody repost it onto the Facebook account. Sure. Is there any way to, because when I do that, I get an unbelievable amount of views.
Sure.
Is there any way to do that directly so that I don't have to do that or no?
Not at this time. We're kind of exploring ways to make that work a little bit better. We're trying to do everything more from a centralized Facebook page.
Well, that was my next question to you. Is there a way to create a page under your page?
Not really. I wish there was. Yeah, there really isn't at this time. It's going to be something that they're going to be coming out with, I'm sure, soon because there's so many things. I will show you this. So we do have. Yes.
So you said you're going to put Facebook page for your ministry? Yeah. Okay. So when you post on that, you get a lot of hits? Is that what you're saying?
No, when I have it reposted onto the St. Pat's.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
We have, I don't know, I got hundreds of followers on our, it's not fake, it's not a lot. When it gets reposted, I get 400 or 500 views.
Okay. I was just trying to clarify what you were talking about.
Yes.
But to repost, if I'm understanding.
He's dropping me a line and saying, hey, we just put this thing out. Can you get it out there?
Okay.
And that's very helpful to me because then
If you can do that, I mean, if it's not a big deal.
Sure.
So you create a link to his Facebook page with some kind of ad that says,
Well, no, it's basically it basically takes a picture of what he posted and posts it on ours, and it links back so he can get there. So that's something that we can do, and we just have to figure out a system. If there are a couple other pages that are doing that. This is something that's available to everyone in this room at least. On the website, I made a page that allows you to make a request for communications. So if you are, it's mainly for ministry leaders that are putting out things in the bulletin and things. Sure, putting things in the bulletin or doing things like that. This is also really helpful if there's something big coming up for your ministry that you want me to know about. Because I get a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls. This just keeps it in one nice little column on my email, so I can go down and look at it. So basically, you can fill out this. You can upload pictures or flyers. I have a thing on here that you can pick the audience that you're looking for if you're trying to reach them with a communication. An all? Well, no, that's not. You can click parish wide, but you have to say please explain. Because it's tough, It's never everyone. But over here,
We're sending this to you because we want you to do what with it.
put it so you have an option to select here: a social media post, a slide at mass, photos at the event, or in the weekly email connection. So,
This is exactly what I
so this is kind of a fun way. This is just a really nice way. I just want to say Sharon is the rock star right here. She uses it often. She uses it very often, and it's extremely effective. She pops up my email. I say thanks, got it, and boom, and we take care of it.
So if I write stuff every week and send it to you that way, and you put it in the connection?
We would have to come up with a kind of a game plan if we would put it in every week. You know what I mean? Of course, you could only have so many things in there. The connection is primarily aimed for things that are happening that next week. Yeah. So that's but I mean that's something that Mary, myself, and Father would look at and say, how can we figure out how to make this work the best for specific ministries. But this is for you. I mean, this page is all built for ministries like that. And then down here, if you have a ministry page, we're just getting in this now. If you're on your website, on the parish website, and you see something that needs changing for your ministry, by all means, please come on here, shoot us a little message. It'll come right to me in another file that says website changes and things like that.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, there is not a place really for us to do, like within Facebook, an article, or let's say small communities. We decided to take pictures of small communities and post them and let people know that these are the people that are meeting and something like that. Is there a way to do that, or no?
So you would want it to go out to the whole parish?
Yeah.
So then you would want to, if you had an account and you shared it, I could repost it. Or if you didn't have an account, you could make it on here, and you could make a request, and then we could post it as a gallery of pictures. So we've done that with, we've done that with the teens. We've done like when Life Teen is doing something, or when the Habitat for Humanity is doing something. They'll do a little write up. They'll send us some pictures, and then we'll put something. And if it's good, I mean, if it's something that is of real value to the whole community, we'll put it in the connection automatically. We'll put it, so
But
that's kind of,
is another way
yeah.
to get an article out.
Yeah, it's another way to get an article out. And it really helps me out when, and Mary as well, when our ministry leaders are bringing us stuff saying, hey, check this out. This is really big and this could be beneficial. And then we'll look it over and hopefully get it in as many communication channels. We have to make sure that, it's going to be something that's going to be beneficial for the whole parish. If we were to put in senior ministry every single week, or one specific thing, it has to be beneficial to the whole parish. And even in the wording, you would say, like, maybe you have a friend that's an elderly person, invite them. That's very different than saying all seniors come to this thing, rather than like, is there an elderly person in your life that you could recommend to come to? Now you've shifted it to being more inclusive to everybody. So, and again, you can upload pictures here. You can do all sorts of stuff. So.
This is really a way for ministries to be visible. And so right now, there is a very slow trickle of this kind of stuff coming to us. Maybe there will be a day where we're inundated and we'll have to kind of do a little more something else with this. But right now, a lot of
Totally.
Unless people search your website and find it.
It's a hidden page. It is a hidden page, and it's not in search engines.
How do I find it? How do we find it then?
So I'll tell you, it's really easy. It's very hidden. It's a secret way. stpatcc.org/request. It's really high tech. That's it. So if you go to that, you'll get here to this, and then you can do that. Also, pick up the phone. You can call me, send me an email. I mean, we can come up with things. I will give it to the MOPS crew again. Renee was fantastic. She came in and said, how do we come up with a communications plan? How do we make something on the website? How do we do something on social media? We sat down over 2 days, figured everything out, and away we went. So I'm really here as a resource for ministries to be able to say, how do we make this better? How do we make this get out to more people? So that's kind of the basics of here. Yeah, so that's request is where you would find that. Any other questions? More questions? Yes?
I guess what I'm looking for are some more tools to use to assist me in some of this creation, and I'm wondering if you could send some links like for photo sharing sites that you might recommend, or other platforms of social media that maybe I haven't thought of, things like that.
Sure, yeah. My goal is to put together a little packet of goodies for people that would be interested. I would recommend Flickr, something like that.
Okay.
And then we would share the gallery. If you have a gallery, a rolling gallery from your events, we could share that gallery very easily on the social media, on the St. Patrick's, because we're not uploading 200 pictures.
Right.
We're sharing a link that links people back there. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier.
Question also going back to Facebook. I know Facebook has this option to create events, and you can create them private or public. So private, like through a private page or through private group. And now, like when we did the Bags of Compassion at Christmas time, there was one. I saw that it was public.
Yeah.
And that was shared around. I saw people popping up that were saying yes, they want
Really?
to join this from churches all over.
Wow.
From ministries all over.
That's cool.
So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Then I thought, okay, so now for moms, say I want to host a play date today and I want to publicize this. Should I be creating it as public or private? Where do I draw the line as far as privacy and or also protecting God's children and letting the public know? Do I want the public to know where children are going?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
what would you say? Where should we fall on that?
That's a fantastic question, and I honestly, I don't know if I have the answer for you. I mean, that was something that we would want to, as a staff, probably look at and talk about. I would say that at first glance, it would be something private. Maybe there's a way to, if you were to create, so MOPS has a private group within Facebook. Which is a hidden group. It's for mothers of preschoolers from St. Patrick's. They can petition to join there. Once they get in there, they can have very personal conversations that are not open to the public. Very useful. It's really nice. It works really great. We're testing it with MOPS. If it works great, it'd be a great communication tools for other ministries to be able to use. And and a lot of them do already. Yeah, and it kind of keeps it tied back because I'm able to be like an administrator. If anything was to happen, let's say Renee says, I'm out of here, you guys are crazy, and she tries to take all the contacts, well, I still have some control as the communications director. Yeah. So I would say an event like that, maybe you would make a public invite to join the group, and then you would be able to filter who could go in the group or not, but then you would make a private event within the group. Do you know what I mean? So you could invite the public, if you're a mother or preschooler, join the group. Right? Yeah. Set an event on Tuesday at noon. Everyone's going to join the group, So then you're getting publicity, but then you would create the event privately to protect everybody's identity inside the group.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah. So it can be very tricky. It can be very, very tricky.
Same thing with private group on our Facebook page attached to it, so that all the people that are involved in either the ministry or the fellowship can ask questions.
Totally.
And do stuff, but nobody else knows about it.
Exactly. And that's I think those are very, very helpful because you can have sensitive conversations. You can see how many people have looked at it. You can see who's read it, and yeah. But it's not like you're making a public thing in the name of St. Patrick that's going out and telling the whole world this is what we do. You're saying we have this within our as a communication. Totally. Wow. So that's a great example. And we've just updated the communications policy. We kind of rewrote the whole thing. Once we keep, it's a living, breathing document. We're trying to figure out what's going to be the best. With over 100 ministries on campus, we're trying to figure out the best problem to have is if everybody wants to use communications. That's the best problem. You know what I mean? If everyone says we want to go crazy, we want to make this stuff, we want to do stuff, that's a good problem to have. We just have to be ready for it. So that's kind of the big thing. So,
even in our ministry, we're using Basecamp,
wow,
which is wonderful for all the ministry.
That's awesome.
For all the people in our ministry. You can add or delete people as they come and go, but you have everything right there. All your emails. You still have a calendar. You still,
You have a running communication.
yeah.
We've used it on projects of the parish. It seems like every day there's another one like that. You know what I mean? It's a little more freer, a little more, you know what I mean? A little bit, one more feature and stuff. But Basecamp is great. Slack, Trello, there are a bunch of things out there that do that. Yeah, where they come up with these names. They ran out of normal names, so they start calling it strange things. So I can, if that's something, if you have a ministry that has a lot of people involved and you want to have just a basic communication with them and you're tired of sending emails, I worked with clients before and companies where we were sending so many emails that we basically went to an instant message window because we were talking 10 times a day and it was just crazy to write emails. So we just had a running conversation next to us. So yeah, I can do like a summary of some of the tools that I would recommend for that. I still think Canva is, I would say start with Canva if you've never used it before. Try it out. Try making a couple flyers. See how you like it. By all means, share it with me. There you go. Share it. There's my email. Send it with me, and I can give you some feedback. There's me on the weekend at a beach. I don't know. But yeah, I'll give you feedback. I'll give you honest feedback. If you have a question on things like that. But yeah, that's maybe the next if people found interest in this, maybe the next one we could talk about social media stuff. That would be something else that's trying to niche down a little bit and get to the specifics of things. What are some best examples? What times are good to post on social media? How to find new followers? How to use an ad? How to spend $5 on an ad and reach 300 people? Very possible. Very, very possible. These are all things, part of the specifics. Very good. Yeah, and I've recorded this too, and I'll send you a link to it.